Leibniz very famously argued that this world is the best of all possible worlds, and it is against this idea that Voltaire writes the satirical novel Candide. And what Voltaire sets out to do in the novel, among other things, is show that experience of the world flatly contradicts this optimism of Leibniz. The novel's central character, Candide, is taught by Dr. Pangloss, who is, if you like, Candide's mentor, that all is for the best in this best of all possible worlds. But over the course of the novel, Candide is tossed from one appalling evil to the next. And accordingly, much of the novel is Candide's struggle to reconcile lived experience with Pangloss' optimism. But while optimism of the sort proposed by Leibniz certainly seems highly implausible, there is arguably some psychological benefit for the one who holds it as a belief. To make the point in more general terms, if you strongly believe that things are good on balance or will be good in the end, that's probably going to make it easier for you to get through life's evils because you see these evils as existing for some greater good. Rochefoucauld, who produced the well-known book of Maxims, says in this connection, hope, however deceiving it is at least useful for leading one to the end of life along an agreeable road. But if hope is what keeps us going, and this hope is basically deception, the question arises, is it really rational to desire continued existence? Now, there's a memorable chapter in the novel in which an older character, when describing their life story, says, I have been 100 times upon the point of killing myself, but still I was fond of life. This ridiculous weakness is perhaps one of the dangerous principles implanted in our nature. For what can be more absurd than to persist in carrying a burden which we can always throw down? To detest and yet strive to preserve our existence. In a word, to caress the serpent that devours us. It's important to note, too, that Leibniz's view that this is the best of all possible worlds is part of an attempt to defend the idea of divine justice and goodness. In other words, it's a proposed answer to the problem of evil. The problem being, why does evil exist if there is a creator, all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-good, who created all things? And so Voltaire's novel is not only a criticism of Leibniz's optimism, but also of its theological foundation. And this is important because if you believe that nature or the world was created by a benevolent creator who is actively involved in the creation, who cares about the creation, you're going to be inclined to think that things are as they are because it's good for them, in some sense, to be that way. And it seems to me that even those who are not theists of any kind have, to a significant extent, inherited this optimism about nature. And one effect of this is that many people will tend to favor things like reproduction, procreating, just in virtue of the fact that it's natural. But if, on the other hand, nature is, as many now accept, a product of chance events and semi-random processes, with no guiding justice or benevolence behind it all, then there's no reason to think that it's necessarily positions which seek to overturn nature's processes, the reproductive process being one, that are mistaken. It may be positions which seek to conserve nature's processes that are in need of some sort of justification. But one of the reasons I wanted to mention Candide here is that I think many people are more apt to read a novel than a purely philosophical treatment of these issues. Of course, that's not to say we should discount philosophical argumentation, but this is, at any rate, one way, I think, of getting people to think seriously about these important questions.